Hello, it is Raccoon, and welcome to kind of a new style video that I'm going to try. This is going to be kind of a build review of, it's a new build, and I kind of want to showcase it. So, we have a new build that might be better than classic all resist. I'm going to go over a little bit of how it came to be, but, just a little TLDR about the build. So the pros of the build, I'm going to look at it real quick. It's called BPD All Res. So it's a build that focuses on MPM and BPD on your stats rather than the classic offensive stats. And it allows you to block or dodge more attacks, which converts into like more effective all resistance, because like you're gonna reduce damage from blocking and dodging, and that is kind of like reducing damage from all res. So on average, it can give you more than 65 all res if you consider it that way. So let's look at some pros. You can get more effective all res versus the average bonus boss. Most bosses have 30 to 40 bonus, and this build versus 30 to 40 bonus bosses can get you 72, 69 all res. These are different variations of the build. We'll go over those in a minute. But you can get more than 65 all res effectively. So I think that's really cool. It amplifies blinds. So if your class has a blind, this bonus will increase. Like you'll get more effective all resistance compared to the other builds. Take reduced damage and such. It will supplement shields versus high bonus enemies. In this video, we're going to look at Xenia EX, who's known for having huge bonus and huge crit, which is the worst case scenario. So a little bit, we're going to go kind of in depth, but blocks would basically when you block an attack, you would take, I think it's 5% of what the attack would deal, and if the attack would crit, you would take 1 non-crit worth of damage. So it's kind of like normally like when you have small BPD shields like Pirate, Ninja, or Paladin, your kind of like worst enemy is high crit, high bonus enemies like Xenia EX. So this helps a lot versus it. I'm also going to talk about the new minus crit technology we got recently in Cicero's backup hammer, plus like a bunch of other classes have it built into their kit and such. So we're going to talk about how that helps it out. And this is kind of somewhat better, like it's either better or worse than all res, because you're reducing damage by blocking or dodging attacks rather than resisting. And this, if you block or dodge kind of like an important attack, like a damage over time effect or minus all effect, these you don't get hit by the debuff. So it's like a double whammy. So if you're lucky, you could block effects like that, so that's another pro. Cons of these builds is since you're not focusing on strength and dex, and we're using Blade of the Golden Keel, which is a 97 average weapon, compared to Exalted Apotheosis, which is 100 average. We're losing a ton of base damage. We're losing a bunch of strength dex into whatever. So we're going to lose some damage. It also has lower health resistance compared to like a regular all res build, which it's kind of a downside for something like a paladin or pyromancer that has a lot of built-in healing. So things to consider. And another thing is like all of these calculations I've done are averages. So you could just see 0 effect from this build. You could see a ton of effect from this build based on like if an enemy misses all of their attacks versus they decide to miss 0 of their attacks, and then you're just kind of screwed. So if you're unlucky, you could see 0 difference, you could see a bunch of difference. It's kind of random. So let's kind of jump in and see what the build is and why we are using these items. So Blade of the Golden Keel, or its counterpart, easier to get counterpart, Ancient Energy Blade, both have the same stats, but you're looking at massive block parry dodge, a little bit of MPM. For the helmets, we're looking at Protean, same all res as like compared to ADL. We have same all res. We have a bit less health, but we have more block parry dodge, MPM, very good. I've done some calculations. I think you like the wing choice is between Wings of the Unraveler, which has a bunch of BPD, but only has 10 all resist compared to the Wings of the Thousand Flames, 15 all res, no BPD. I've found 15 all res kind of like makes the build like even if you get hit by everything, at worst your build's gonna be like as good as all res, and then it has a chance to be better. So I think that's very good. If you want to, this one can high roll harder, and like you'll see, like for shields and stuff, this has more effect sometimes. So this one's kind of preference. We'll go through them. Parallel Chaos Amulet. This is going to be the same as like a regular all-res set, but it actually has insane BPD, so it really helps out for this build. Paper Coil. Tons of BPD, tons of MPM. Compared to something like Oro, no BPD, no MPM. So this is it's a lot more defensive, but it comes with less main stat. Here we have Defender Dragon's Ring. This one is used because it has the most BPD plus MPM, and when we're gonna look at blinds and stuff, having one of the draws to this build is when an enemy attacks you with less with like negative bonus, they both have to beat an MPM roll and a BPD roll. So it's like double effectiveness, like 4 blinds. So increasing your MPM has massive effects still. So this is the all-res ring with the most MPM plus BPD. But if you don't have it, something like Tentacle of Dominion plus 10, still pretty good. This one's kind of like the real killer. 10 BPD, 5 MPM, 4 all-res. This is a beast. Compared to C7, 0 of those stats. So this is kind of like a key item here. Legion Bracer as always, and that is the build. So let's kind of jump into how this build came to be, and why weren't we doing this earlier. So this build first came into my sights from Psyduck.df. This guy came kind of out of the blue. Someone just found his video, and he beat Chaos Slayers wearing this weird ass build. And if you look at the build, he was using BPD instead of all res to kind of block the Chaos Slayers attacks, and I thought this was super interesting. So you see, he's shilling it. I think it's really good. So that's where it first came to be. And then how was this not like discovered earlier? Basically, 5 out of the 7 items for this build came out between 2023 and 2024. We have the Ancient Energy Blade from Passion and Peace. Same thing as the Blade of the Golden Keel from Blade and Bones. Of course, Chaos Slayers itself gives 10 BPD, we have the Masters of Wind for the Honda's Legacy EX trinket. Here, if we come over here, Devoured Horizons gives us our helmet, and Covetous Fortune will give us our belt. So, and then the Clashing also gives us an item that we're going to talk about later that gives minus crit, amplifies BPD shields and stuff. So, this is a really new gear set that we can't, that was just like kind of given to us, and not too many people have been testing it yet. So, let's kind of get into my calculations here, because I was claiming that this can give more effective all resistance. So basically, kind of at 30 bonus, compared to like the regular all res setup. Let's check this guy out. This is a really classic all res setup. I use Honda's Legacy because I think it's insane. But you're gonna look here. We have slightly more than 30 bonus. So you're gonna see we take, like, compared to 100 bonus, we take this much damage. 30 bonus, we have a small chance to block something. But as we increase our NPM BPD, you're going to see this number decrease. So on average, these were all calculated from Nemu's calculations. He has this great monster stat calculator. Kind of just input the boss's stats, damage, bonus, and then your NPM and BPD, and would split. It spits out this number, and I did some testing, and they're pretty much right. Anyway, here we're gonna go down at 30 all res, or at 30 bonus compared to the 65 classic 65 all res. We're gonna take 20% less damage. And 20% less damage translates to 72 all resist. Okay, that's pretty insane. So most bosses, you're going to roll up into them. This was tested on Guardian Dragon, mostly. He has 38 bonus, he's closer to 40. At 40 bonus, 69 all resist. Okay. You're kind of seeing how crazy this is. So, like, on average, on his first attack, let's just get his first attack going. Okay, so this was in the classic all resist. You see that we took a bunch of damage, no blocks, no dodges, no nothing. So let's equate this BPD all, run into this challenge one more, and hopefully we're going to see this happen. Okay, we didn't see it happen, but we took about the same damage here. So, that's what I was saying, kind of like 65 all res. At the worst, we're going to be the same as the regular all res. And then we're going to have a small chance to dodge some of his skills. So we're going to keep going until that happens. It shouldn't take too long. See, we got a nice block. And we're at 200 more HP than the other trials. Of course, he crits and whatever. So it's not like fully accurate. But you can see how, like, just one block or one dodge that we have a decent chance of getting can really save us some HP. So that's kind of what's going on here. And you're going to see, as your class starts to blind enemies, the effective all resist starts creeping up a lot more. Creeping up. And these are with the different builds. So, this is the classic 65 all res that I was showing off here. Then this is 65 all resist with Exalted Apotheosis. This build is normally it's kind of similar in damage resist, but it deals more damage. and I'll kind of show that off later. And then the last build that we're going to focus on is the 60 All Res one with these items. So you see we have a lot more block, we have a lot more dodge, but we only have 60 All Res, so we take a little bit more when we get hit. But you're going to see all of these are performing rather well at like 40 bonus, we're seeing effects. 30 bonus, we're seeing good effects. And then as you blind an enemy, so this is what I was saying. So as you blind an enemy, it has to roll versus MPM and BPD to hit you. So as you lower its bonus, if you have increased MPM and BPD, you're going to dodge a lot more attacks. So as you see, damage reduction at minus 50. So this is, let's say, we have a 30 bonus boss, and then we hit them with Crackers, which is Pirates minus 80 blind. They're going to be around minus 50. We're taking 35% reduced damage compared to a 65 all, like the classic 65 all res build. That's pretty consistent. And then you see the build with the 60 all res that has more BPD and MPM stats. You're going to see that this one kind of gets like crazy high as you increase the blind amounts. So that's really good. This is kind of like the big drawing point is versus low bonus bosses versus bosses that you can blind, things like that. You're going to see effect. And then kind of the bigger thing is if you're in 65 all res, you're going to take the same, like, let's say you blind one boss and they're at minus 50. So you're taking 35% less from that boss. And then the other guy is shooting at 100 bonus. You're still in 65 all res, so you're going to take the same damage from the other guy while you're dodging like most of the other guy's attacks. So I was using this a lot with Pirate. I thought it was really good. You see a lot of effects. And the other point that I was touching on is you can block like damage over time minus alls. Like if you have a chance to just block all attacks from an enemy. So like increasing that chance, you just high roll super hard, make unreproducible strats, and it's really good. So this is my chart for these. You can see 72 all res, looking nice. So now we're gonna touch on the other one, is the shields versus high bonus enemies. So we chose Janya EX here. She's hitting 83 bonus, 74 crit. Everyone knows crit's bad for BPD classes because like the damage just kind of goes through their shields and everyone's complains. So high bonus, high crit enemy. Let's see how these perform. So this one's like Paladin. It says 45, and the Paladin is it's 40, 60, 80. But compared to something like Ninja, it has a base 5 BPD on the class for some reason. Paladin privilege, I guess. So we're for this test, it's 45. So 65 all res. No shield, you're always getting hit. Even with the 45 shield, you're always getting hit. Once you get to 65 or the 85, that's when you start dodging. But if you look at the BPDs, you start dodging earlier, start reducing more damage earlier. Let's say this is Ninja 120. You start reducing, you're like taking 70 less damage with a BPD all set. Pirate Backstab, minus 70 damage, minus 80 something damage. These are really good. So translate those to percentages here. And then to effective all res. You know, with the shields, you're still taking, even though it's a high bonus enemy, with high crit, you're still taking less damage compared to the all res build. Still really good. And then we're gonna talk about this item called Cicero's Spare Hammer. We get it from the Clashing recent challenge. Basically, this hammer reduces crit from enemies. So it has a. Can't pull it. Oh. Should have prepared this earlier. Yeah, here we are. Cicero's Spare Hammer. One hit. So we can reduce crit, 20% chance on hit, minus 20 crit, and it has an active for minus 40 crit. So, this is with the Cicero's proc. This is compared to the all resistance. So, with the 140 shield, you see we're reducing 14% chance compared to all res. But if you reduce our crit a little bit, you're reducing 16% compared to the all res. Or if you reduce it even more with the active and the bonus, you're reducing 22% instead of the 14%. And then if you reduce it to 0, you're reducing 25% compared to the 14%. So, like, as you reduce these crits from enemies, you could do it through Cicero's Hammer. You could use it through class skills. Like, Paladin has a bunch. Ninja has a minus 100 Venom. Pirate has minus 30 on Sunken Crew. So there's a few of them. And you just start reducing damage more and more compared to the all res. So these are pretty fun to look at. High bonus enemy, low crit because you reduced it. You can reduce 56% damage if you have the Icebound Revenant Shield. Yeah, everyone plays that class. But this one's pretty good. Pyro, Cryptic takes 43% less damage if it's wearing the 60 BPD All Res, like, versus an 83 bonus enemy. That's really good. Let's see. Paladin's reducing 10, 50, and 20% damage, like, in its different radiances. It's getting a lot more all res compared to, like, in 65 all res you get 0-ish. So it's really good at reducing damage. So I think I've talked about these. Yep. Let's look at the cons here. Cons are lower damage. So this is great from. Let me set this up. Hello. This is a cool calculator made by Soul. Let's see. He has his name somewhere. Solinence AE. This guy is really cool. He's really smart. And he made this calculator with a damage calculator attached to it. So what this does is you would go to your DPT sheet. He made all of these too. You'd find whatever class you want, and you would throw it in the build that you want. So, yeah, that looks close to what I have. And you just throw it in, and then it shows you how much damage you would deal with that build. So I did these with all the builds. The standard 65 all res will always win because you have a 100 average weapon. All of your all of the gear for that build is focused towards dealing the most damage, so it's all for main stats and crit and such. So you're gonna see this is gonna be dealing the most damage. But BPD 65 with Apotheosis. So let's look at this one. At 30 to 40, 68, 71 all res. We're taking 10 to 18% less damage for most bosses. And we're only dealing 5% less damage. So that one's really good. The BPD 60 all. This one is kind of worse because, like, it has higher highs and lower lows, but you're still reducing 10 to 18% damage with only a 7% damage loss. This one's kind of like the 60 all res one is better for shields. Like you'll see here how it's like definitely the highest for shields. Like once you get too high, it stops getting good. But for small mid-range shields, it does pretty well. And you don't lose that much damage. The build that I was showing off at the start, this is the best at reducing damage in my opinion. Like in most of the scenarios that I found, you're looking, it's looking pretty high in the damage reduced. And over here, it is also very high in the damage reduced, very high effective all res, but it does come with the biggest downside, like 8 to 9% damage decrease. So it's not the best damage wise, but I think it's still really good at reducing damage, and that's what this build's all about. So let's go over some classes that I think are good with this. I think surprisingly Doom Knight's really good at this. It has 2 blinds. It has a minus 55 blind with Malefic versus non-corruption, and then corruption versus a mystery enemy gives a minus 30 blind. As we tested, blinds are really good. You get up to 77 all res, 79. These are really good builds. So it can help reduce a lot of damage with it. Though with Doom Knight, you're probably gonna have to equip Apotheosis to get the lingering damage with the minus 30. So keep that in mind. I think KA can use it during its off rotations, where it just throws the blind on people, helps Spock a little extra damage. It doesn't really need it, but you know, if you want to stab, you can. Ranger has a huge blind, so let's say you want to blind an enemy to dodge an attack, but has a little bonus. So you pop the blind, you pop the BPD all build. The other enemy is hitting you. You take regular damage from the enemy that's not blinded. You dodge the attack from the guy that is, and then you keep on moving. Paladin is really good because it has like a pretty constant MPF or BPD shield, and well, it's not really shown here because these are versus high bonus enemies. Versus a low bonus enemy, this damage reduction skyrockets. So it's kind of like so let's say this is an 83 bonus enemy. Let's say you're facing like a 33 bonus enemy. That's plus 50. So you're looking at these numbers for 45. You're looking at these for like 65. And then for 85, you're up here. So you're taking like 20, 23, 28% less damage. I think that's really good. It does reduce your healing a little bit for Paladin, so that's not the best. But you also have a blind in Paladin to make use of the aforementioned other damage reduction. Really good. Pyromancer is kind of iffy because you do lose the healing, like Paladin. You lose the healing, and you don't really want to equip it all the time. But with Pyro, when you pop your BPD shield, and the enemy has like a little bit of bonus, 140. You could see how it starts reducing damage quite a bit, like versus high bonus enemies. BDL has a blind. I wouldn't use it to amplify your E-Wind, even though that has a BPD shield, because like this reduces healing a lot and you want to heal with that skill. But it's good for the blind. It's good for kind of like tanking, because you want fights to be long with BDL, so reducing any amount of damage is always good. Rat Dragon Lord, I just put it down because like sometimes you might want to like make the blind count more. So you would like blind with the BPD all build and then switch off it next turn. It's kind of like a super stabby one, but like you could use it. Ninja is great. Ninja has a blind in its poisons, a blind in its BPD skill, and a minus crit in its poisons. So it can kind of like see all the effects here. So I think Ninja's really good. You do lose a little bit of damage, and Ninja's like kind of known for burst. So keep that in mind. But if you want to play more defensively with Ninja, this is definitely a good option. I used it a lot with Pirate, especially when facing high bonus enemies. This is actually where I found out it was really good by playing with Pirate. Because I would fight high bonus enemies and be like, I want the shield, but I might still get hit, so I want all res. So that's where I kind of like discovered this, made it, and so it was really good. And then you could also just like randomly dodge attacks from enemies, like with no blinds or no shields on, and then you just get more openings. So you don't actually lose too much damage from it. So I think Pirate's one of the better ones for it. I put CZ down because it has a blind, but you're never using blind combo on CZ, so it's more of a joke. Rest in peace to the one CZ player. Necro, Cryptic is a lot. Yeah, let's talk about Necro. Necro's pretty good. With this build, like during the shield, I'd say you want to like buff up your shield. It's in the 180 range. So let's say you want to buff up your shield, but don't want to like sacrifice your all res too much in case you get crit through. You're gonna see it reduces quite a bit of damage. So I think Necro is really good for the shield, not too much for anything else. And then Cryptic. Cryptic's really good. It's kind of just like Pirate, but worse. So all the effects you would get from Pirate, you'd also get from Cryptic. So it's gonna be good there too. So anyway, let's end out by looking at this great thing with the builds. I say, in closing, I think that this is probably one of the most versatile ones. You don't lose too much damage, but you do gain a lot of the defenses. This one is if you want to get more defensive, but don't really care about how much damage you deal. So, still really good. This is the most defensive one, I think. And then this one is the best at high levels of blinds or high, kind of low BPD shields. So, amplifying shields, amplifying blinds, you want to look towards this guy just for like your best sets. So, I just kind of want to make this video saying that is the 65 all res build outdated? Probably not. It's still going to be really good every time you choose it. But can you consider other options if you want to be tankier? Yes, you can on specific classes for certain challenges. Try these guys out. I think you'll find that they're a little bit better than you'd think. So, thank you.